Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello.
You can begin with your presentation. Yeah, you can start with your presentation. Can you hear
Just
me?
a moment. Hello. Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Please begin with your presentation.
All right. I'm so sorry. I could not hear if you were saying anything back. Sorry. Yeah. Can you guys see the screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. Okay. So, hello everyone. I am Amber. Currently, I'm an independent researcher. Presently, I'm working at Tata Consultancy Services as a copywriter. So my paper is titled "A Threat to Identity: The Pipeline from a Content Creator to an Activist in Post-CAA NRC India." As you can already sense from the title, it is a very precise. It's a study of a very precise moment in time and a very precise duration. And the reason why I took this duration was precisely because I was also at the forefronts of this particular movement, and this was something that I noticed during that period. So these were the main concepts that we will be focusing on in this particular presentation. First, Indian Muslim content creators, which is going to be who are these people, and second, we're going to try to understand how do they engage with social media activism, which is the particular thing which happened during the post-CAA NRC protests in India. And then I also try to understand how is this activism a part of where they can come from, and if it is a response to a threat to their identity. This ends up telling me the implications of this activism on the generation of these content creators, because at the beginning of the you could say at the beginning they were a content creator, and it was activism that they went to in the second part. So through this I would try to understand the motivations, strategies, and consequences of this particular transition. First, I would like to give a little introduction, a little background. So, the year 2019 spares remembrance in India for the massive protests that took place within the streets of Jamia Millia Islamia and Shaheen Bagh pertaining to the Citizenship Amendment Bill, which is the CAB 2019 bill. It was passed by the Parliament of India on 11th of December. Okay, this is the particular bill. Now, what did the bill do? It basically amended the Citizenship Act of 1955 by providing an accelerated pathway to Indian citizenship for persecuted religious minorities from nearby countries such as Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Pakistan who arrived in India prior to 2014. Now, it was discriminatory in nature, and there's a lot of study which goes back and proves this fact that it was indeed discriminatory in nature. What was? It is now in it's now an act now and being followed. So, in the recent years, the CANRC 2019 protest has become the biggest of its kind globally to dominate a crucial conversation surrounding the state of minorities in India. Much research has already gone to addressing the outcomes of shortcomings of this array of social media activism. You can find these references in my paper, which will be posted later on. And this particular social media activism has further led to mobilization, which was primarily heralded by the Indian Muslims. Okay, however, one thing that this paper tries to understand is the impact of this particular mobilization by the Indian Muslim women on the fabric of Indian Muslim identity politics, particularly at present. And I aim to explore this by analyzing the rate at which Indian Muslim content creators transformed or transitioned into activism after 2019 CANRC protests. Now, the date of the protest as seen, the date of the bill as seen is 11th of December 2019. However, the protest, I think, started around 15 December, which was when the Jamia violence. All right. Moving forward, this is a quotation that I had took, which actually kind of talks about how this was a one of a kind protest in which Arfa Khandam Sherwani says to Unheard India in 2022, which she goes, "I had never thought Indian Muslim women would come out at in a huge number and organized the widest and largest historical protest against the government. And Shaheen Bagh in itself was the first mass challenge to the current regime. This particular phenomena found in the absence of any representative Muslim activist transformed the prospective content creation for many at present. So even right now, you could see there's a lot of for activism content which is being generated in India, particularly by Indian Muslim women. But I wanted to see where did this particular content come from and how did this change happen. All right. So the key questions that we focus on here is first, who were the Indian Muslim content creators that grew in prominence during this particular period? Second, why did their content change? Or can this change qualify as a content in its own self? Is it activism now? Third, what does this inform us? What does this particular change actually tell us? All right. So moving on, this is the it's not changing. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. The literature review that I particularly focused on are these are the following. First, Instagram has become a contemporary platform for presenting our digital identity. And with the Shaheen Bagh, the largest Muslim female-led civic movement in India's history, something is collectively snapped in the Indian public. This is something that I take from Tewatia and Majumdar's paper back from 2023, where they say that content creators use identity, self-preservation, and self-presentation for an operational impression ministry. Second, the after effects of the Shaheen Bagh protest and its exploration of Muslim voices. Particularly, this is a paper written by Biswas very recently, where he tries to kind of explore how this increased their digital activism and participation in this digital activism post 2019. Third, negotiating algorithms and audiences and political identity has been a core challenge for activists on Instagram particularly. This was also something which was mentioned in this by Tanvi Kanchan. I think the first presenter where she talked about how this particular change in your content can actually lead to you getting shadow banned by Instagram. So there your visibility gets decreased, and if you are an already ongoing content creator, you choosing to post a particular content which challenges the status quo, which is what the Indian Muslim women did, it does impact on your content creation and also on your audience. The theoretical thing. So the theoretical framework particularly focuses on these three theories, which you can understand it as basically theory of limited audience space, which is the result of shadow banning, and then it focuses on how the content creators are seen, which is they are usually everyday internet users who accumulate a relatively large following through, their social standing, particularly. And then the third one, it talks about what and how do they use the digital media for, and what kind of activism do they take. These are respectively chosen by the works of MC Coster, Crystal Abdins, and Geraldos and Levine and Arafi. Moving forward, okay, the methodology. Now, since I said that this is a paper that I personally uh, this is something that I viewed myself and something that I noticed myself throughout this particular period. Most of the content analysis that I did was a part of my own perspective and my own observation. So the first, which was content analysis, I did as an observer, where I witnessed firsthand the beginning of both the protests and how information was sent across these protests, how awareness was raised, and who were the people who were particularly raising this awareness, and where did they come from, who were they. Second, digital ethnography, where I used Instagram through the following and engagements of a chosen activist, which is Nadia Khan. She's pretty famous right now. You must have heard of her. She has heralded herself as a Indian Muslim activist who about what talks about her identity precisely and the political problems which are going in the nation currently and marginalization. Through her following, I ended up finding through her following and engagement, I ended up finding a lot many similar accounts. I ended up finding at least 25 such accounts of women who participated in political activism online. And through that, I mined it further to understand and analyze if they were doing the same thing pre this period and if they were not. I actually ended up finding a lot of accounts which did not exist pre this period, a lot of accounts which existed but got shadow banned, so they had to make their accounts again, and thus I could not include these accounts. Third, in order to find these accounts and people, I used newspaper reports and articles, which was like informants and blogs by journalists or bloggers about the protest period, and hence they talked about the prominent people during the protest period, which is what I chose. Now, these were then mined for transition, which was the transition of content pre 11 December 2019 and then post December 2019 content, post 11 December 2019 content. These accounts were then identified based on the following parameters. This is how I mined them. I said I found 25 accounts at first, and then I ended up with 13 accounts. This is how I mined them. First, if they're active right now. Second, if they're public accounts managed, which brings me to the third point, managed by Indian Muslim women. Fourth, if they initiate discourse on social and political topics. And fifth, if they're challenging the status quo or they risk the status quo. And seventh, which is if they have a significant following and engagement. So uh, for at least the challenging part, I chose them challenging the status quo as my main parameter. Moving forward, the transition as I observed in the account, so as you can see here, I can try to hover my mouse sort of. As you can see here, I took particularly Nabia Khan into context and I tried to see how she was before 2019, for that particular 11 December, and after. I noticed that even though she joined Instagram in 2014, she was particularly a poet and a blogger pre that period, where she would post poems about life, about love, about just like being a person, being a human, and sometimes also poems of resistance. But moving forward during this particular period, especially after the Jamia violence, her content changed drastically. She started posting and actually urging people to come to protest. As you can see here, in on 18 December 2019, she posted the content type, which was a picture of JMI, the university, and the content subject was resistance, and she was inviting people for this particular protest. And again, moving forward, on 20 December, which is 2 days after, she posted a video of that particular protest site. But then prior to this, you see her posting poems, pictures, or kind of photo dumps of herself. So this particular transition, I detected it in almost in all at least the 13 accounts that I narrowed down. I have also taken her permission to choose and use her account in this particular study. She was actually my teacher in school, so this is something I've noticed firsthand, and I have talked to her about it. But this is not this I have not included in my study. It's actually one of the limitations. So moving forward, the transition as I observed it. So, in the accounts that I considered, it is observed that this set of Indian Muslim women content creators can be categorized into content creators who were generating content based on profession, lifestyle bloggers, or who were writers in this particular table, you can see all the 13 people that I considered. And out of the 13 people, there were two deviations that I found. So the 11 women out of these 13 women completely transformed into activism post this period. Prior to this period, they were posting content about themselves. They were posting content. They were lifestyle bloggers or writers or poets. But post this period, they primarily started posting content activism. While the true deviation is first is Dr. Arshia Faz, who actually got her account shadow banned in 2020 December and then had to start a new account as a lifestyle blogger, and then Nabia Khan. Arshia, considering Arshia Faz, her content still includes food and lifestyle blogging, while only three out of her content, out of like 10 of her content stories, which are inclusive of her stories and posts by focus capitalism. While Nabia Khan still calls herself a poet, her recent content has transformed into resistance poetry, where all her posts since 15 December 2019 has revolved around primarily activism and talking about the state of politics in India, particularly. So the reason for this could be understood in layers such as a threat to their identity, audience scrutiny, or personal loyalty to the movement. This study tries to understand the motivations and implications behind the first assumption, which is a threat to their identity. Moving forward, so these are the assumptions that I came down with. Basically, in a time when famed Indian influencers were first one is in a time when famed Indian influencers were publicly condemning the hijab, many Indian Muslim content creators have continually felt compelled to engage in political activism to defend their identity and advocate for their rights. For example, Faiza Hirji, Department of Communication Studies and Multimedia, McMaster University, Canada, argues that the algorithms reinforce identity by purposefully limiting a creator's audience to a reclusive sphere of reach and engagement. In this way, Indian Muslim women as content creators face a limiting range of audience behavior to attribute to begin with, to be honest. Um, Second thing that we noticed, second example that you can take is of Ruba Zai, a Dolce& and Gabbana hired hijabi social influencer who revealed in a YouTube video that about her struggles of forming her online presence and her choice of completely leaning to address the Muslim female audience. when this already, basically what we saw was that when this already shrunken online space was threatened due to the discrimination of CAP 2019, it became motivated of political activism for the chosen women and content creators. So the third point, which is Muslim activists through thoroughly have been seeking to claim their shrinking space. However, this isolation further limits their audience, online audience, but also the
Um, Amber, we are running short of time, so we have like 30 seconds to wind up.
all right, okay, yeah. So yeah, the first thing that we learn is that this isolates them further, and the reasons are as follows. The conclusion that I came up with was that this transition stems from feelings of isolation and threats that represent significant implications for identity politics in India. And second, this also operationalized their influence to generate awareness. However, their position as influencer activists not only threatens their personal life as humans apart from their Muslim identity, but also as Muslims finding themselves threatened in a secular state. While content creators have leveraged this platform to advocate for social justice, taking the position of an activist in a space with loud scrutiny raises critical ethical questions on the growing polarization of a political influencers and influence
Thank,
acts.